welcome to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and again, as always, thanks so much for being here. I hope you enjoy the show. Well, we're going to highlight the River Valley artists today, and Claudia Van Ness is my guest today. And Claudia, thanks so much for being here. So nice to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for asking me.
I read about the River Valley artists in the Harbor News and have heard about them for an updated amount of times, and I wasn't sure who they are or where they are and wanted to have you on as a guest. So why don't we first talk about you? Tell us about your background, and then let's talk about the River Valley artists.
Okay. I'm well, I don't know where to start. I live in Chester with my husband. I have grown children. I was for many years a journalist at the Hartford Courant. I was also during that time, or a little hiatus, the editor of what is sort of now the River Valley News. It was a bigger newspaper twice a week. And then I went to the Courant again, and I retired early to be an artist, which I always intended to be. So I started to do that, and I inadvertently, by accident, started a gallery, Maple and Main Gallery in Chester, which went for 6.5 years. I started it and I was involved in it, but I didn't run it. We'd hired somebody to do that. But let me just say, I spent a lot of time there. And that ended sort of at all of our mutual agreement. And during that time, I always wanted to have a studio tour of studios in Chester, Essex, and Deep River, sort of emerging from that gallery, or part of it, but we never did it. So when it ended, after a while, we started the tour. And that was the first tour was in 1988, and it was of artist studios in the 3 towns. Well, and we always were the River Valley artists. So that the group grew both in people involved and also in our activities. So now we have year-round shows, and we still have our tour. We didn't have the tour in 2021 because of COVID, but we've had it for 3 years, and we're going to have it again this year in October. And I do art, and I'm involved.
Oh, yeah. As an artist, did you know as a young person, as a child growing up, that that's something that you were going to pursue?
Yes, I did. I drew mostly. I drew all the time. I drew very intricate little tree houses, oddly, for rabbits, and all kinds of things. Yes, I always wanted to be an artist, but I sort of took a left turn into journalism, and again, more or less an accident. But that was no compromise. That was a good career for me. So I'm glad I did that, and I'm glad I was able to return to art.
Tell us about your work today. Are you doing art, or are you just doing the River Valley artists?
I'm hang on. No. Sorry. I'm doing both. I'm doing River Valley artists. I'm not doing it alone at all. There's a lot of people involved, and I'm making art. Yes, I paint.
You paint. What are some of the things that you like to paint?
Well, I work in various mediums, mainly watercolor. Here, wait a second. I'll get something. Like, here's one I just finished.
Oh my, what is that?
Not atypical. I don't know if you can see it.
It's a vase.
Yes, it is. On a tablecloth. And I often do sort of intricate watercolors like that involve pattern. I also do abstract art, and I sometimes do collage, and once in a while, and also I use acrylic. So I have a great variety of styles and work that I do.
Did you go to school for art? Was that something that was part of your life as you grew up?
I did go to art school in Paris after college.
My thought would be for the artists of any age that is watching the show right now, would you recommend education, workshops, lectures that they should attend if they're thinking of becoming an artist or if they're struggling and trying to find their way?
I think it helps a lot. It helps a lot for the connections, being an artist is a lonely thing. You're all, and if you're doing it all alone, you're kind of doing it in a vacuum. And that's probably not the best thing, especially when you're beginning. So yes, I would recommend all that. There's a lot of classes online now too. I've done a few of them and they're good. So there's a lot of opportunity, especially around here, to take art classes as well, to go to, art school, to major in art.
Tell us about art school in Paris or in France. How was that? What took you there?
Do you see how old I am, Deborah? Do you imagine how long ago that was? Well, I went there after college because I wanted to take art classes and I wanted to live in Paris. And it was mainly a fun time. It wasn't necessarily a great education. Well, it was an education in other things, maybe not art, in life.
Tell us about the River Valley Artists. What are they all about?
Well, River Valley Artists are actually all artists who live or do their art in Essex, Chester, or Deep River. There's also a few exceptions, like a little confusing, but if you live, here, I'll tell you. This is a map of the tour. So if you live close enough to the border of Chester, Essex, or Deep River that you can be on that map, you can also be in River Valley Artists. You also can be in it if you show on the tour with one of the artists. Like I have a couple of artists who show with me in my studio and home on the tour, and one of them's from Westbrook. So she's in River Valley Artists because she's on the tour. But mainly it's artists in Chester, Essex, and Deep River. And you don't have to do anything except be an artist and be in those three towns. It doesn't cost anything. There's no membership fees. There's no board. There's very few meetings. It's very loose. So we have a number of opportunities through the year, and you can join which ones you want. Right now, we have a show in Ben Parker's studio and gallery, which is on North Main Street in Essex, and it's an abstract show. So 23 artists from Chester, Essex, and Deep River are in that show. And actually, we're going to have a lecture or talk there Tuesday night by Melanie Carr, who has a gallery 2 doors up, and it also teaches art. And she's going to give a talk on abstract art at Ben's. So, that's one of the activities. And the next show we're going to have is in July and August at the Space in Chester, which is a gallery in Chester. And then we're going to have a show about birds, little paintings of birds at the tea and coffee place on Main Street in Essex Tea and Coffee. And then we'll have our tour. So we're busy year round.
Oh, I was just going to say, what does your calendar look like? Do you have things scheduled even in 2023?
No.
Okay,
no, I don't. But
just for this year.
Except for the tour. The tour is, every October. So yes, that would be in 2023.
How does somebody?
We have to. We'll probably have some more shows at Ben's. We had a show at Selma of art, Selma and Deep River. We should interview them, of only Chester, Essex, and Deep River art, depicting Chester, Essex, and Deep River. I'd like to do that again.
How does somebody get involved with being a part of the tour? Are they artists and open up their home? What's that all about?
Yes, you open your home, your studio, which I'm sitting in right now, and then people come. It doesn't cost anything. They come on the tour. The tour is 3 days this year, October 8th, 9th, and 10th. I'm echoing here. Oh, not anymore. Yes, I am. We advertise it with a brochure, and elsewise, and then you come and you visit all the studios. In many of the studios, or some of them, people double up, so there might be 2 or 3 artists in a studio, and there's also 5 artists on this tour at Essex Art Association showing there.
What about?
And you come on a tour. You can go. It's a self-guided tour. It's free, and you just go from home to home or studio to studio, wherever you'd like to go. And you look at the art. You visit the art. You visit the studio. You visit the artists. It's also kind of an inadvertent free house tour.
The website. When somebody visits the website, what will they see?
On our website?
Yes.
Well, they'll see all our shows, our activities. That, for instance, on the website right now, on the current show called Abstract Works, there's a sample or an image from each of the artists of one piece that they have in the show, which you can see. So it gives you an idea of their art as well as what you might see in the show. And then the website sort of tells you in general about our group, and tells you what's coming up. The next show being a contemporary show at the Space in Chester, and all the shows except for doesn't mention our holiday show yet, which is going to be 8x8 paint, all 8x8 paintings exactly the same size. Different paintings in a grid.
The artist that's watching us now, how do they become involved with the River Valley Artists? Do they show somebody their work and get approved?
No, they don't get approved. Everybody who is an artist is an artist making art in these 3 towns is automatically part of it, and they can join and do whatever they want with us. Another thing we have is a plein air group, which is I don't know if you know what that is, but it's a plein air is painting outside. And a lot of artists paint outside. They paint what they see outside. So we have a plein air group that meets every other Tuesday afternoon at one site or another in the 3 towns. A lot of the sites that we meet at are private. So, we don't necessarily advertise that, but anyone can join the plein air group.
Okay, let's hold that thought.
If you join it, if you want to be in a show, the only caveat is that you need to pay for it, which is very modest. It's $15 a show.
Okay.
Because we have expenses.
Let's hold that thought. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You're tuned into Arts and Entertainment. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Better Business Bureau is warning consumers about a used car scam. The scammer pretends to be a woman who's lost her husband, and it says she's trying to get rid of his car. The scammer claims they'll put your money in escrow for 5 days, so if you don't like the car, you can get your money back. But BBB's investigation has uncovered that the escrow or logistics firm the scammer is using isn't legit. Many of these websites lead back to a virtual office in Hartford. Never wire funds for an online purchase, and always make sure you can see the car in person before you buy.
You matter.
You matter.
You matter. And your words matter too.
Your words matter.
What you say in the hallways at school or in the student section at a game matters.
Words can be hurtful.
Words can be offensive.
Words can leave scars.
Words can also inspire.
support, and uplift.
You and your words.
Are they both important?
As a matter of fact, yes.
And welcome back to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host. And again, as always, thanks so much for being here. Well, we're highlighting the River Valley artists, and Claudia Van Ness continues to be my guest today. Claudia, the individuals that are showing their work, is their work up for sale if you're going through their gallery or you're going on the house tour? Can you also make a purchase?
Always. You can't show if it's not for sale. The purpose of the group is to give artists another venue or additional venues to show their art and to sell it, to expose them. So all the work is for sale, and all the artists sell their work or try to sell their work.
Is your
It's
organization...
not too much. It's not, I must say, it's not, as you can imagine, it's not for beginner artists, because you can't very well be on a studio tour and open your studio with 40 or 50 framed paintings if you haven't been doing art for quite a while. So, while beginners can be in the plein air and maybe in a couple of the shows, it's for more experienced artists, largely.
Is your organization associated with other art organizations throughout the state of Connecticut?
No. There is, art organizations in Connecticut aren't generally connected to one another. There's a lot of art organizations. Essex Art Association, for instance, is one of them, and that's a nonprofit art association. It has shows mainly in summer in their gallery, which is in Essex, but they're not associated with any other group.
Okay, what does the future look like?
There's not a link between art groups. Obviously, we're friendly.
Okay, I'm glad that you're friendly. I would think, there are so many artists in the state, I would think that it would be nice that people would know each other and associate amongst each other.
We do know each other, and obviously we're in other shows and other organizations, and we did our last opening for the Abstract Work Show a couple of weeks ago. We coordinated with the Essex Art Association for the opening of their first juried show this season. So we did that together.
That's a good question. Can some of your artists do work with other art organizations throughout the state or even throughout the nation, or are they just exposing themselves to the River Valley artists?
Oh, no. No, most of them are certainly show elsewhere and are involved in other groups. I am. And yes, they all are.
What is some of the work that you're working on now?
Pardon?
I said, what are some of the works that you're working on now?
I'm working on some abstract collages, which have involved me taking apart some of my watercolors I didn't care for so much, putting them in the copy machine, tearing them up and affixing them to a substrate, and then coming in with paint and more collage. So that's generally what I'm most interested in doing right now. Though I'm also about to do a watercolor, I hope, of a scene at the end of I live in a private road in Chester, where my road meets another road, and in that corner there's a lot of I don't even know what they are, yellow wildflowers that are in bloom right now, in amongst tall blades of grass, and that really interested me as a composition. And I'm going to draw that and hopefully paint it. So you can see I go in different directions. A lot of artists do.
Do you, besides being the River Valley artist, do you socialize amongst yourselves? I mean, do you paint together?
Yes, because we have a plein air group. And in a plein air group, you paint together.
What does plein air group mean? Is that what it means?
it means actually that's what it means, plein air, outside. And it's a way to paint. Some artists only paint what they see in front of them, so mainly outside. So some of those painters even paint in the middle of the winter so that they can get the scene, the live scene that they see in front of them. I don't do that so much, but I did start the group, so I go to the sites. The last place we went, for instance, was the Deep River landing on the river. Where it was actually too windy to paint, but hey, we gave it a try.
Well, at least you gave it a try.
And the show that we have coming up next is interesting. It's in the Space Gallery in Chester, which is at the top of Main Street in Chester. Very nice gallery, beautiful actually. And there's a room in the back. Not tucked in the back, but towards the back of the gallery, where the River Valley artists are going to have a show we want to call it contemporary work. It's not all abstract, but it's either abstract or quirky. Edgy.
How do you decide each year what you're going to do and put on your calendar? Or do people make suggestions as to what type of shows you should do?
Yes, or we just come up with the ideas, or somebody asks us to have a show. For instance, our show at Soma, which is south of Maine, which is in Deep River. It's an art complex. People should visit. It's very interesting. Near the Essex border, and they have a lot of mainly art classes there, but they also have a gallery. And they asked us to be there, and so we thought that a show of just Chester, Essex, and Deep River art would be appropriate. And there were a lot of the paintings we had done in the plein air group were in that show. Ben Parker's, I'm not sure how we ended up there. Can't remember. But sometimes it evolves. Sometimes people ask us, sometimes we ask them if we can use their space. We've actually been very successful that way. Because we're a limited group, obviously there's only artists who want to be in the group in 3 towns. So we can show in smaller spaces than bigger art associations, which need to find quite a big space to show.
Now
we can squeeze in.
For the artist that's watching us now that's in another town in the state, because the show is shown throughout the state and on the internet, do they have to live in those 3 particular areas to be able to be a part of the River Valley Artists?
Yes, they need to live or make their art. They can have a studio here, or they can be on the tour by showing in one of the artists' studios or galleries. If, for instance, somebody came and showed with me from, I don't think 2 towns too far away, but if they came and showed from lived in Old Saybrook, but they showed here at my home with me, then they would be a part of River Valley Artists, and they could be in all our shows. And we have like 6 shows this year, so they could be in all of them or none of them or some of them.
Well,
the show we're having with the bird art, maybe it's going to be small paintings. A lot of people don't want to paint that small, and they have to because of the venue. It's so small, but also a lot of others don't want to pick birds, and so they're not in that show. No.
Well,
that's okay.
We are starting to run out of time. Do you have any closing thoughts for the viewers?
Well, I just urge all artists in these 3 towns to go on our website, River Valley Artists, and find out how they can get hold of us, and we will include you in our shows and maybe on our tour. We just the purpose, as I said, was to give artists as much exposure as they want, and giving artists exposure and places to show and other artists to paint with and ideas is essential. So that's our goal.
Well, I want to thank you very much for being here.
And so far it's worked.
Well, thank you very much for being here today. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me.
And to all of my viewers that are out there that might be interested in being a guest or who would like to volunteer on the show, I'd love to have you. Please contact me at artsandentertainment@mail.com. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You have been tuned in to Arts and Entertainment. I hope you have a super day. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.